It was a rainy Wednesday morning in downtown Chicago when Emma Carter stepped into the marble lobby of Orion Bank's flagship branch. Her sneakers left faint prints on the polished floor, and her gray hoodie clung slightly to her shoulders from the drizzle outside. People in suits walked past her without a glance, their eyes fixed on screens or espresso cups. But Emma wasn't here to impress anyone. She had a purpose. In her hands, a navy blue folder containing every document needed to open a premium account for someone else. Before we continue with the story, tell us where you're watching from. Now sit back, relax, and enjoy the story. She walked toward the glass-walled office labeled Sean Whitaker, Client Relationship Director. Through the transparent wall, Sean was laughing with a sharply dressed man. His Rolex caught the light, as did the smug smirk on his face. Emma waited by the door patiently until the secretary noticed her. "Do you have an appointment?" the woman asked, scanning her from head to toe, visibly unimpressed. Emma smiled politely. "Not exactly, but I was hoping to speak with Mr. Whitaker. It won't take long." When Sean finally noticed her, his expression turned curious, then tight. He stepped out, straightening his blazer. "Miss, I'm quite busy this morning. We don't typically offer walk-ins for high-tier accounts." Emma extended the folder. "I'm here to open an account, not for me, but for a woman who recently completed our financial mentorship program. She's come a long way." Sean didn't take the folder. "And who exactly are you representing?" Emma's voice didn't waver. "The Aurora Foundation. I'm its director." Sean blinked, trying to recall if he'd heard the name before. He hadn't. "Right," he said slowly. "Look, I'm not sure this is the best environment for community outreach, let's call it. Our platinum tier isn't exactly designed for charity cases." His eyes drifted to her, wet sneakers. Perhaps she'd be more comfortable with a standard checking account. Emma didn't flinch. She saved every penny, paid off debt, built a budget. We mentored her through 2 jobs and a toddler. This account, it's not charity, it's dignity. Sean forced a chuckle, glancing over her shoulder. A few executives were now watching. "Miss, I'm going to stop you right there. If you'd like to make a deposit, use the kiosk. Otherwise, I'm afraid you're in the wrong place." His voice carried just enough to make her presence feel like a disruption. A beat of silence. Then Emma nodded, not in defeat, but recognition. "Thank you for your time, Mr. Whitaker." She turned, folder still in hand, and walked out, each step echoing in the hollow, pristine lobby. Behind her, Sean muttered something about misplaced idealism and returned to his desk, unaware that half the floor had gone quiet. Emma reached the sidewalk, face unreadable. Then she pulled out her phone and dialed. Miles away, in a townhouse. Shaded by maples and ivy, William Carter glanced at the caller ID and instantly answered. "Emma?" She exhaled slowly. "He looked right through me, Will. Like I didn't belong there. Like she doesn't belong there." William sat up. "Tell me what happened." Emma recounted the encounter with surgical precision. Every word, every look. William listened in silence, his knuckles whitening around his pen. When she finished, there was a pause. Then, "What do you want to do about it?" Emma leaned against a lamppost, watching people pass in the drizzle. "Nothing. Dramatic. But it's not about me. It's about what he made her feel. Without even meeting her." William was already opening his laptop. "I have a few ideas." Emma hesitated. "Nothing cruel, Will, just clarity. They need to see her, and people like her." By dusk, 3 phone calls had been made, 2 meetings scheduled, a particular memo rewritten with surgical language, and a delivery ordered. William moved with the precision of someone used to systems, influence, and silent power. But this wasn't business. This was personal. The kind that leaves a mark deeper than money. The kind that makes a man choose purpose over protocol. The next morning, the rain had cleared. A silver SUV pulled into a different part of the city. Emma's community center. Inside, she was reviewing reports when one of the teens burst into her office. "Miss Carter, there's a car outside. A big one, like presidential." Emma stepped outside, curious. Standing by the car was an older man in a tailored gray suit. "Miss Carter," he said, offering his hand. "I'm David Linwood, from Orion Banks Board. Mr. Carter asked me to deliver something." Emma raised an eyebrow. David opened the backseat door. Inside was a box. When Emma lifted the lid, she saw a new portfolio. Premium, gold-stamped, with a note, "For the ones who rise, no more waiting rooms." At the bottom, "Approved, effective immediately." Emma blinked, her heart tightening. Not because of the gift, but because of what it meant. The girl she had mentored would walk into that bank with her head high. Back at Orion, Sean Whitaker was unaware of the storm brewing quietly under his feet. But the glass he hid behind wouldn't protect him for long. Sean Whitaker arrived at the bank an hour early, as usual. He liked the silence of the morning before the glass palace filled with voices and movement. As he adjusted his cufflinks, he glanced at the mirror on his office wall. A man in control, sharp, untouchable. But beneath the polished reflection was a man who had built his identity around gatekeeping value. And today he had no idea that identity was already under review. His assistant, Clara, poked her head in just as he finished straightening his tie. "There's someone from the board here, David Linwood." Sean's brows lifted slightly. "David? Here?" Clara nodded. "And he's not alone." Sean walked out into the lobby, curious but unfazed. But when he saw David and the woman, beside him, Emma Carter, his steps faltered for half a second. Just half, enough to register. David smiled coolly. "Sean, I believe you've met Ms. Carter." Emma gave a polite nod. Sean offered a thin, forced smile. Briefly. David gestured to the nearest meeting room. "Let's chat, shall we?" Inside, Emma took a seat with calm grace, saying nothing yet. Sean sat across from them, stiff but composed. "Is this about the new account?" he asked, falsely casual. David folded his hands. "Partially. It's about perception, Sean. About how our institution reflects value, not just financial." Emma remained silent, watching him. Sean forced a chuckle. "We can't vet every person who walks in off the street." "But you didn't vet her," David said plainly. "You dismissed her." Sean opened his mouth but paused. He had nothing to fall back on that wouldn't sound petty now. Emma finally spoke. "This isn't about me. It's about a pattern. One that teaches people where they don't belong. You just happened to make the mistake with someone who could answer back." Sean felt his jaw tighten. "So, what now? Public apology?" David shook his head. "Not yet. We're offering you something better. Understanding. It's your choice what you do with it." The door opened again. A young woman stepped in, early 30s, poised but clearly nervous. "This is Tasha Moore," Emma said. "The woman I came to support. She's the actual client. She deserves to speak." Sean looked at Tasha as if seeing a ghost from a dream he hadn't finished. She wore a simple navy blouse, her hands folded. "I grew up believing banks weren't for people like me," she said, voice soft. "You confirmed that." Sean swallowed, suddenly aware of the weight in the room. "I didn't mean to offend you." "But you did," Tasha replied, her voice firming. "You looked at me through her and saw nothing worth time." David leaned back. "What we're offering isn't punishment. It's exposure. Ms. Carter runs a program for financial education. You'll spend the next 2 weeks embedded in it." Sean blinked. "You're kidding." "No," Emma replied. "This isn't retribution. It's reality. Walk where they walk. Listen when they speak. Then Decide who truly understands value. Sean stood slowly. This is humiliating. No, David countered. This is necessary. Emma added, You're lucky you get the choice. Most don't. That night, Sean sat in his minimalist condo in silence, scrolling through the Aurora Foundation's website. Testimonials. Photos, names, kids with piggy banks, adults who learned to budget, save, and invest from scratch. He stared at one picture longer than the rest. Tasha, holding her child's hand, smiling proudly at her first savings milestone. Sean closed the laptop. Something felt off inside him, like the first hairline crack in polished glass. The next morning, he arrived at the community center, not in a tailored suit, but in jeans and a button-down. He didn't want to stand out. A teenager waved at him from the gate. You the banker guy? Sean nodded. Apparently. Inside, Emma was already leading a class. She didn't stop when he entered, just gestured toward a seat in the back. Sit. Listen. The session was on debt cycles. Emma spoke with clarity, compassion, and conviction. She wasn't just teaching finance, she was unlocking survival strategies. Sean watched the room, people scribbling notes like their lives depended on it. Maybe they did. His world was numbers and prestige. Theirs was necessity. And suddenly, prestige felt paper-thin. During a break, Emma handed him a workbook. You'll shadow Tasha this week? Sean opened it, then looked up. She hates me. She doesn't, Emma replied, but she doesn't owe you grace. Earn it. Tasha passed him without a word on her way to refill coffee. He stood, notebook in hand, and followed. As they walked side by side down the hallway, Sean finally asked, Why are you even willing to do this? Tasha glanced at him. Because, if I don't, someone else will face what I did, maybe worse. Her words weren't bitter, just true. Besides, she added, I want to know what happens when someone like you has to watch the climb instead of judging it. Sean didn't respond. He couldn't, because for the first time in a long time, he didn't know what to say. The next morning felt different. Sean sat in his car outside the Aurora Foundation Center, unsure why he hesitated. The polished world he came from valued control, image, and efficiency. This place moved to a different rhythm, one he hadn't yet learned to follow. Still, he straightened his shoulders and stepped out, notebook in hand. Inside, Tasha was already seated with a small group, leading a budgeting simulation. All right, she said, pointing at a whiteboard. You just got hit with an unexpected hospital bill. You've got $200 left. Rent's due. What do you do? A man named Victor raised his hand. Negotiate with the hospital. Partial payments. A woman beside him added, Sell old furniture, anything not essential. Sean took a back seat but couldn't help asking, What about credit? Tasha didn't blink. That's how most of us get trapped. One swipe too many and the snowball starts. She turned back to the board. We teach survival before. Savings, because most of us weren't taught either. Her tone wasn't accusatory, just honest. That made it sting more. After the session, Sean followed her to the break room. You're good at this, he said. Tasha gave a non-committal shrug. Lived it, learned it, now I teach it. He sat across from her. I didn't know people faced choices like that daily. Tasha finally looked him in the eye. You didn't want to know. There was no malice, just gravity. Later, Emma pulled Sean aside. How's it going? He sighed. Like waking. Up in someone else's skin. She smiled slightly. Good. That means you're feeling something real. He hesitated. I don't know how to make it right. You're not here to fix. You're here to feel, Emma said. That's where it starts. Throughout the week, Sean sat through story after story. A woman who'd escaped an abusive marriage and rebuilt her life dollar by dollar. A teenager, working night shifts while caring for his siblings, a father who sold his tools to afford insulin. Sean found himself listening more than speaking, and when he did speak, it was with less certainty, more humility. One afternoon, during a one-on-one budgeting session, a man named Jamal looked at Sean and said, "You bankers only show up when someone has something to give. This is the first time one sat beside me when I have nothing." Sean wanted to say something clever. He didn't. He just nodded, because Jamal was right. That night, Sean stayed late, helping clean up the center. As he swept the floor, Tasha handed him a worn notebook. "My first budget. Emma made me do it 2 years ago. I hated it, thought it was pointless." Sean opened it gently. Every page was filled with shaky numbers, crossed-out goals, and slowly climbing totals. It was beautiful in its struggle. Tasha pointed to a line in red ink. "That was the day I opened my first account, 37 Lindiors. Took me 3 months to save. I remember walking in terrified they'd laugh at me." Her eyes met his. "Now imagine how I felt when you actually did that to someone else." Sean's chest tightened. "I didn't know it was you." "That's the point," she said. "We never do." By the end of the week, Sean started arriving early, bringing coffee, asking questions, volunteering without being told. The center's staff watched him carefully, skeptically at first. But slowly, they softened. Because change isn't loud. It's quiet, consistent, earned. And Sean was beginning to earn it, one act at a time. On Friday, as Emma wrapped up the session, she asked everyone to share one thing they'd learned. When it was Sean's turn, he stood, holding the worn notebook Tasha had given him. "I learned that value isn't measured in assets or attire. It's measured in resilience, in grit, in the courage to start again, even when everything's stacked against you." The room went quiet. Not in disbelief, but in respect. Tasha nodded slightly. Emma gave him a look that said, "Now you're starting to get it." As people began to leave, Sean lingered. Then he turned to Tasha. "I was wrong about you, and about all of this." Tasha crossed her arms. "You were, but now you've got a chance to make something right." As Sean stepped outside into the evening light, he noticed a group of kids gathered around a chalkboard mural outside the center. It read, "Dreams grow where doubt once lived." For the first time in his adult life, Sean felt like he might belong somewhere he never expected. But across town, someone else was watching, and they didn't like what they saw. 2 blocks away, from the community center, inside a sleek downtown office lined with glass awards, Leslie Vance replayed the footage for the 3rd time. It was grainy, captured by a volunteer's Instagram story, but it was unmistakably Sean Whitaker in jeans, sweeping the floor beside a chalkboard that read, "Financial freedom starts here." Leslie's jaw tightened. What the hell is he doing? As head of public relations for Orion Bank, Leslie had spent the last 5 years curating an image of polished excellence. Sean had been one of her stars, sharp, commanding, untouchable. But this, volunteering at a grassroots center, after a public blunder, it didn't fit the narrative, it threatened it. And in Leslie's world, perception was everything. She picked up her phone and called Richard Monroe, Orion's CEO. "We've got a situation," she said flatly. Richard sighed. "Please don't. Tell me it's another scandal." "Worse," Leslie replied. "It's humility." There was a pause. "Come again?" She turned the monitor toward the camera. "One of our golden boys is going rogue, and people are loving it." Meanwhile, back at the center, Sean was helping install a new donation counter. Tasha smirked as he fumbled with the screws. "You know, bankers aren't exactly known for manual labor." Sean grinned, wiping his forehead. "Don't worry, I'm billing you $500 an hour for this." For the first time, Tasha laughed. Short, surprised, but real. Emma watched from the hallway, heart quietly full. She'd seen people change before, slowly, painfully, but Sean's evolution was accelerated, raw, as if once the illusion cracked, the truth flooded in. Still, she remained cautious. People could perform empathy just as easily as they performed arrogance. It was time to test him deeper. Later that day, Emma handed Sean a folder. "We're doing outreach in the West Side. They've got zero access to banks. You'll help lead." Sean raised an eyebrow. "Why me?" "Because it's not comfortable," Emma replied. "And that's where growth happens." Sean nodded. "Let's go." Across the city, Leslie was already typing up a press advisory. The outreach van rolled through cracked roads and forgotten blocks. Sean sat beside Tasha, both silent, absorbing the weight of the neighborhood. Rusted fences, boarded-up stores, kids playing barefoot in gravel. Tasha finally spoke. "This is where I grew up." Sean turned to her, startled. "You came from this." "And made it out," she added firmly. The event took place in a small rec center. Dozens gathered, some wary, some hopeful. Sean helped set up tables, handed out flyers, answered questions. An elderly man pulled him aside. "You, really from a bank?" Sean hesitated. "Yes, sir." "Then why are you here?" Sean glanced around. "To learn, to listen, maybe to do it better next time." At that moment, a young girl ran up to Tasha, holding out a dollar bill. "I saved it, just like you taught me." Tasha knelt, teary-eyed. "That's beautiful. Baby." Sean watched, struck by how deeply a single lesson could ripple. This wasn't about finance. It was about freedom. He suddenly felt ashamed of how long he'd misunderstood it. But not everyone was cheering. Back at Orion's headquarters, Leslie's campaign was already in motion. A press release titled, "From Boardroom to Backstreets. 1. Banker's Redemption" story was scheduled to drop by morning. It would reframe Sean's transformation, not as a personal awakening, but as a bank-led initiative. The spin would benefit Orion, not the community. That evening, Emma received a call. "You should see this," said a reporter friend. She forwarded the press draft. Emma read it, jaw clenching. "They're co-opting his growth," she muttered. She stormed outside, dialing Sean. "Did you authorize a press release?" "What? No." Her voice tightened. "Then someone's using your change as a PR stunt." Sean was stunned. "I didn't ask for recognition." "Doesn't matter," Emma replied. "If this goes live, everything you've learned here gets rewritten as a strategy. People won't trust you, or us." Sean was quiet for a moment. Then, "Let me fix it." Emma hesitated. "You only get one shot at this, Sean. Don't waste it." He hung up and immediately called Leslie. "Take it down." "Excuse me?" "The release. Kill it." Leslie laughed. "Sweetheart, this isn't about you anymore. It's about brand narrative. You're a tool now. A shiny, self-correcting tool." Sean's voice dropped. "Then I'll resign." Silence. "You wouldn't dare." "Watch me." The call ended. And just like that, Sean Whitaker, the banker who once believed reputation was everything, took his first real stand against it. The next morning, the press release was gone. Scrubbed, deleted. No trace on Orion's media page or internal newsletters. But whispers had already begun. In every corner office and conference room, executives asked the same question. Why would Sean Whitaker throw away his future for a group of strangers? The answers were speculative. The consequences were real. Sean walked into his office and found a man waiting for him. Richard Monroe, CEO of Orion. No smile, no handshake, just cold corporate stillness. "You made quite a ripple, Sean," Richard said calmly. "I expected better judgment." Sean didn't sit. "I made the right judgment. For once." Richard's eyes narrowed. You embarrassed us. Sean raised his chin. If truth is embarrassing, then maybe we should rethink who we are. Richard stepped closer. You're not a hero, Sean. You're an employee, and you just cost us a major PR pivot. Sean didn't flinch. Good. Maybe it's time we stop pivoting and start listening. Richard shook his head. You sound like her. Emma. The name didn't need to be spoken. Her presence lingered in every word, every silent rebellion. Sean crossed his arms. Emma. Carter taught me something you never could. Richard arched a brow. What's that? That respect isn't earned through fear. It's earned through service. That line struck harder than Sean expected. Even Richard paused. By afternoon, the news had leaked internally. Sean threatened to quit. He's with that non-profit now. They're calling him the banker-turned-activist. His colleagues didn't know whether to admire him or avoid him. Clara, his assistant, entered his office quietly. You okay? Sean nodded. Actually, I think I'm finally okay. At the Aurora Center, Emma prepared for the upcoming community summit. Flyers were everywhere. The theme, building trust from the ground up. But she couldn't shake a lingering worry. People like Sean didn't just turn against the system, without cost. And the system never forgave easily. Her phone buzzed, an unknown number. She hesitated, then answered. Emma Carter? The voice was smooth, clinical. This is Jessica Hartwell, Senior Legal Counsel for Orion Bank. We'd like to discuss the Foundation's recent use of our employee in promotional materials. Emma blinked. I haven't promoted anyone. Jessica continued. We're concerned about brand dilution and reputational alignment. We're considering a formal cease and desist. Emma felt her stomach drop. So, you're threatening us? Jessica replied coolly. Just protecting what's ours. Emma's voice sharpened. He's not a product, he's a person. And he came to us. Willingly. Jessica paused. We'll be in touch. The line went dead. Emma sat back, anger swirling with dread. The storm was building. Meanwhile, Sean stood on the rooftop of Orion's parking structure, staring at the city skyline. He knew what came next. Isolation, pressure, consequences. But he also knew he couldn't turn back. Not now. He pulled out his phone and dialed Emma. They're coming for you, she said before he could speak. They want to make you theirs again. Sean's voice was firm. Then we go public, truthfully, on our terms. Emma hesitated. Are you ready for that? No, he admitted, but I'm ready to stop being afraid. She paused, then smiled. All right then, let's rewrite the story. Together, they began planning an open forum during the summit, a space where bankers, clients, and community voices could speak openly. No filters, no brands, just truth. Emma knew it would stir things up, but maybe that's what they needed, stirring the pot until what settled was actually worth keeping. Days later, the summit opened to a packed room. Community members, activists, financial advisors, even a few hesitant Orion executives. Emma stepped to the mic first. Confident, clear. We're not here to shame. We're here to share. Because you can't rebuild trust with silence. Applause. Tasha followed. Then Jamal. Then Victor. Finally, Sean stepped forward. Nervous, but grounded. I spent years guarding a gate I didn't even understand, turning away stories because I didn't recognize their value. But here, I've learned that the richest people I know don't wear suits. They wear scars, and they show up anyway. The room was still, then erupted in applause. But not everyone clapped. In the back, a man in a gray blazer tapped away on his phone, sending updates in real time. Minutes later, Leslie Vance received a notification on her screen. He's doubling down, and they're cheering. Her lips curled. Then it's time to play harder. As the summit ended, Emma pulled Sean aside. "You did good." "We did," he corrected. "Together." But neither of them saw the email being drafted behind corporate walls. Subject line: Strategic Containment Protocol. And Sean's name was at the top of the list. Monday morning dawned with headlines that weren't written by banks or curated by publicists. Banker speaks out. The human cost behind the curtain ran across independent blogs and nonprofit news feeds. The video clip of Sean's summit speech had gone viral overnight. And not the kind of viral that Orion could control. This was organic, raw, unfiltered. Inside Orion headquarters, a war room had formed. Lawyers, PR managers, and executives circled. Digital screens like generals over a battle map. Leslie Vance stood at the center, arms folded, watching it all unfold. "This is no longer a reputation issue," she said coldly. "It's a security breach of narrative." Richard Monroe simply nodded. "Fix it." Meanwhile, Sean and Emma sat in her office watching the video views climb. Sean looked dazed. "I didn't expect this." Emma smiled, amused. "Truth travels fast when it finally finds a microphone." Sean turned serious. "They're not going to let this go." "Neither are we," Emma replied. "You're not alone in this anymore." Across town, Tasha was at the community market when her phone buzzed, a text from an unknown number. "Watch your back. They're going after your records." She froze. The sender ID disappeared. She rushed home, booted up her laptop, and logged into her secure Foundation files. Everything was intact, but the login attempts showed something disturbing. 12 failed access attempts, all from corporate IPs. Tasha immediately called Emma. "They're trying to get to us through me." Emma's tone sharpened. "Back up everything. Double encrypt. We go on lockdown." Within the hour, Aurora's tech team was mobilized. Firewalls were reinforced, cloud drives secured. Because what started as a transformation had become a war. At Orion, Leslie called a private meeting. "He's not just embarrassing us now. He's weaponizing empathy. We need to discredit him without looking like we're trying." Richard raised an eyebrow. "How?" Leslie smirked. "Let's remind the public who Sean Whitaker used to be." She held up a folder. 3 years ago, internal reprimand, discretionary bonus approval over policy. Back at Aurora, Emma confronted Sean. "Is there anything in your past they can twist?" He hesitated. "Maybe. Once. A discretionary bonus I greenlit. It wasn't illegal, but it wasn't clean." Emma's eyes narrowed. "Did it hurt someone?" "No, it actually helped a client, but it bypassed protocol." She sighed. "Then they'll make it look dirty." And they did. By midweek, major news outlets, likely tipped off, were running stories questioning Sean's integrity. "Reformed or reckless," one headline read. Others painted his outreach work as opportunistic, tied to guilt or image rehabilitation. The same crowd that applauded days ago now murmured doubts. Seeds of suspicion had been planted. Emma watched it all unfold with controlled rage. They want to make people believe you're just another scandal in sheep's clothing. Sean felt the weight. Maybe they're right. Emma stepped closer. "No, they're afraid you're not. That's why they're trying to bury the truth under old dust." He nodded slowly. "Then we go deeper." That night, Emma posted a new video. It wasn't flashy, just her in front of a bookshelf. "You've heard their version. Now hear ours. Full documents, unedited footage, and voices they've ignored for decades." The video ended with one powerful line. "This isn't about a banker's past. It's about a system that punishes progress." The response was overwhelming. People began sharing their own stories. Hashtags like Ichiui was ignored and Ichiuch banking, without bias, started trending. Survivors of financial abuse, victims of predatory lending, families denied loans for the wrong reasons. What Sean had started had become something far bigger than him. It had become a movement. At Orion, Leslie's eyes narrowed as she scrolled. "We underestimated them," she muttered. Richard glanced over. "What now?" She took a long breath. "Now we stop trying to discredit him." Richard looked surprised. "We surrender." Leslie's eyes gleamed. "No, we reclaim him. If we can't beat the narrative, we buy it." 3 days later, Sean received an unexpected invitation. A lunch meeting with Richard Monroe and Leslie Vance, marked as private opportunity discussion. It was vague, but strategic. Emma raised an eyebrow when he showed her. "This isn't a conversation, it's a recalibration. They want to see if you're still bendable." Sean nodded. "Let them try." They met at a rooftop restaurant. Sleek, exclusive, the kind of place where deals are born and souls get sold. Richard greeted him with a smile that felt half sincere, half measured. Leslie wore her usual power blazer-like armor. "Sean," Richard began, "you've caused quite a stir." Sean sat. "So I've heard." Leslie poured water. "You're trending, and not just in activism circles." Sean stayed silent. "Let them play their cards." Richard leaned in. "We think your message, your new voice, has value. Tremendous value." Sean tilted his head. "For who?" Leslie smiled. "For everyone. Imagine launching a community outreach division under Orion with you at the helm. Full autonomy. Real funding. Real change." Sean narrowed his eyes. "And what's the catch?" Richard gestured broadly. "None, except alignment, of course, controlled messaging, strategic partnerships. We keep the heart, but add polish." Sean felt his stomach churn. "So, I get to keep helping, as long as I help your way." Leslie's voice softened. "We're offering legacy, Sean, not censorship. Elevate the mission, protect the brand. Everyone wins." Sean glanced around. This place, this offer, it echoed the very world he'd begun to reject. Still, the part of him that craved structure, status, and reach listened. "And Emma?" he asked. Leslie didn't flinch. "She's a visionary, but too volatile for partnerships. We want you." That sentence cracked something deep. He stood. "Thanks for lunch. But I'm not for sale." Richard's jaw tightened. "Think carefully. Movements fade, institutions last." Sean met his gaze. "Movements become institutions when they don't sell out." He left without dessert. The table remained set. For a future he'd just refused. Back at the center, Emma was prepping volunteers for a housing equity workshop. Sean walked in and tossed the proposal folder on her desk. "They want me to run a non-profit division. On their terms." Emma flipped through the sleek pages. "It's tempting. They know how to make poison taste like honey." Sean sat. "For a second, I almost said yes." Emma closed the folder. "They're not scared of rebellion. They're scared of truth without a price tag." Sean looked up. "Then we need to become too loud to absorb." Emma smiled. "You're finally thinking like us." That night, they started drafting the framework for something new, bigger than Aurora, a coalition, a network, independent, unbought. But Orion moved fast. The next morning, national news featured a new ad. A community initiative by Orion, narrated by Sean's voice, spliced from past recordings. His face appeared at the end. "We believe in second chances. Join us." Emma's phone exploded, with messages. "You went back? They bought you. You lied to us." Sean stared at the screen in disbelief. I never recorded that. Emma's eyes were cold. They manufactured consent. Within hours, Sean went live on Aurora's stream. I didn't approve that ad. I don't work for Orion. They used my image without permission. Let that tell you everything you need to know. His voice shook, but it was steady where it mattered. The fallout was immediate. Community leaders called for boycotts. Allies rallied online. A legal battle began to form, but in the court of public opinion, the verdict was clear. Integrity couldn't be bought, and now everyone saw who was trying. But in the shadows of this backlash, Leslie made her next move. She scheduled a private meeting with Emma Carter. The room was sterile. A private boardroom inside a boutique law office chosen for its neutrality. Emma arrived alone, wearing the same quiet confidence she always carried. No makeup, simple. Hair, a navy blue coat buttoned to the collar. Leslie was already there, sipping espresso, her eyes tracking Emma like a strategist sizing up a rival general. "You came," Leslie said, as if surprised. Emma sat, folding her hands calmly. "You called." Leslie offered a smile that didn't reach her eyes. "You're a remarkable woman, Emma. Passionate, precise, dangerous." Emma tilted her head. "Funny. I was about to say the same about you." A pause. Then Leslie leaned in, business mask, dropping slightly. "Let me be blunt," Leslie said. "Orion is bleeding, not because of lies, but because of your truth, and we both know the truth is rarely simple." Emma's gaze was unwavering. "So, what's the real reason I'm here?" Leslie smiled. "I want to offer you control. You're clearly not someone who can be bought. But what if you could lead?" Emma blinked, expression unreadable. "Lead what?" "A new financial access alliance," Leslie said, "funded by Orion, directed by you. We take your model, your reach, your philosophy, and scale it. You become the face of reform, real power, global stage." Emma's voice was cool. "And you?" "We stay in the background," Leslie said. "Facilitators, not owners." Emma took a long breath. "You want to repurpose the thing that exposed you and turn it into your shield." Leslie nodded. "Exactly." The honesty startled Emma. "You don't even pretend it's noble." Leslie set down her cup. "It doesn't need to be noble. It just needs to work." Emma stood slowly. "That's the difference between us. I don't serve what works. I serve what matters." Leslie stood too. "And how far has that gotten you?" Emma looked her square in the eye. "Far enough that you had to ask me here." She turned to end leave, then paused. "You know what scares you, Leslie? That we're no longer knocking at your doors. We're building our own." Then she walked out, leaving silence and an untouched contract behind. Outside, Emma exhaled sharply. The adrenaline still pulsed beneath her skin, but her mind was already racing. She called Sean. "She tried to recruit me." "What did you say?" he asked. "I told her the only thing I'd build with her money is a wall between our values." Sean laughed softly. "Remind me never to play chess with you." Back at Orion, Leslie watched Emma's silhouette disappear through the glass. "She's too clean," she muttered. Her assistant frowned. "What do you mean?" "Everyone has a flaw, a past, a secret. I want hers, and I want it by Friday." Somewhere deep in Orion's archives, an old file was requested, one that hadn't been touched in over a decade. Meanwhile, Emma returned to the center to find a letter waiting. No envelope, no return address, just a single sheet with a printed message. "You think your past is buried. We're about to dig." She read it twice, then folded it slowly. Tasha, watching her from across the room, asked quietly, "What is it?" Emma smiled faintly. "A reminder that they're scared of me." That night, Sean joined her at the center. They sat in silence for a moment, watching volunteers clean up the event space. Then Sean asked, "Did you ever think it would go this far?" Emma shook her head. "No, I just wanted to give people tools. I never expected it to become war." Sean looked at her. "But you're ready to win it, aren't you?" Emma didn't answer. She didn't need to. Emma sat alone in her office long after everyone had gone. The letter remained on her desk, folded neatly, but its weight pressed into her like a stone. She hadn't told Sean the full truth. Not yet, because the past they threatened to dig up wasn't a bluff. It was real, and part of her feared it still had teeth. 12 years ago, she'd been a very different Emma. Young, impulsive, desperate, to help. She'd joined a housing cooperative aimed at fighting discriminatory eviction policies. When the city slashed funding, Emma had accessed restricted municipal databases to prove racial targeting. It worked, but it had also been illegal. She was caught, charged, quietly settled. It never made headlines. The judge had shown mercy, recognizing intent over malice, but the record remained, sealed, not erased. She'd rebuilt her life after that moment, rebuilt herself. But if that history resurfaced, it wouldn't matter why she did it. It would become who she was, in every headline, every whisper, every doubt. Tasha entered the office, sensing the tension. "Emma? You okay?" Emma nodded slowly. "Just tired." Tasha didn't buy it. "You read something that scared you." Emma looked up. "They know about my arrest. They're going to use it." Tasha sat beside her. "Then we beat them to it. We tell our version first." Emma exhaled. "You think the world forgives people like me?" Tasha smiled. "You forgave me." That stopped Emma cold. The world doesn't need to forgive. "You, Emma, you already paid. Now you teach." Emma held her gaze. "If I do this, it could break everything we've built." Tasha shook her head. "Or make it unshakable." That night, Emma recorded a video. Simple, direct, raw. "Before I became a teacher, I was a fighter, and I crossed a line. Not to harm, but to expose harm. I broke a law to prove people were being evicted because of their race. I don't regret fighting, but I regret not finding a better way." She paused, then added, "I've never hidden who I am. But now, someone wants to weaponize my past to silence what we're building. So I'm owning it first. And if you've ever made a mistake trying to protect someone, then maybe you'll understand." She posted it that night, and then waited. The response was immediate and electric. Comments poured in. "You were brave then. You're brave now. This makes me trust you more, not less." I've never heard a leader own their past like that. Across platforms, her confession didn't create scandal. It created solidarity. Because real people recognize something deeper than perfection: accountability. At Orion, Leslie watched with tight lips. "She confessed," she muttered. Her assistant nodded, stunned. "And they're praising her for it." Leslie stood slowly. "Because she told the story first. Truth told voluntarily is disarming. And now she's untouchable." She picked up her phone. "Then we pivot. Hit the other one." 2 hours later, Sean received a call from a former colleague. "They're trying to implicate you in Emma's past case. They're building a narrative. Shared ideology. Shared methods." Sean's pulse quickened. "It's fiction." "Doesn't matter. They're not proving a crime. They're shaping suspicion." He hung up, face pale. Emma was still in the line of fire, and now so was he. He called Emma. "They're turning us into co-conspirators." Emma was silent. "Let them try," she finally said. "We'll do what we always do. We tell the truth first." Sean hesitated. "You sure we can survive this?" Emma's voice was steel. "We've survived worse, and this time we're not alone." But in a quiet penthouse above the city, a new figure watched the headlines unfold. Not Leslie, not Richard, someone higher, a silent investor, a name buried in the ownership structure of Orion. And he didn't care about reform, redemption, or revolutions. He only cared about control, and the two people threatening to take it away. Rain streaked down the glass windows of a conference room no one knew existed. It was 3 floors above Orion's top-level executive suite, accessible only by biometric clearance. Inside, a man in his late 50s scrolled silently through social media clips of Emma and Sean. His face was unreadable. His name was Mason Drake, and in Orion's hidden hierarchy, he was the true owner. Drake had built empires in silence: real estate, defense, tech. And when it became inconvenient to be seen, he purchased Orion through proxies. To him, finance was not a product. It was leverage. What he saw in Emma and Sean wasn't rebellion. It was vulnerability. Every rebellion carried the illusion of momentum. But momentum could be redirected, bought, or buried. He pressed a button on the table. A voice responded instantly. "Yes, sir?" "Begin the deep asset profile," Drake said, targeting Sean Whitaker. "Full spectrum. Family, finances, digital history. I want his pattern of pressure points." A pause. "And the woman?" Drake's eyes narrowed. "No, she's a martyr now. Untouchable. But martyrs need witnesses. Remove the witness, and the myth dies." Across town, Emma and Sean were in a staff meeting, planning a national speaking tour funded by independent donations. The energy was electric. "We've had offers from New York, Houston, even London," Emma said. "They want to hear what this looks like outside the echo chamber." Sean smiled. "Then let's show them. On our terms." Later, as Sean left the center, he noticed a black SUV idling down the block. It had no markings, no lights, but it was there again the next day, and the day after. One night his front door was unlocked. Nothing stolen, just moved. An envelope placed on his kitchen table. Inside, a photo of his sister, taken outside her job that morning. Sean stared at the image, heart hammering. No note, no threat, just message received. He called Emma, voice low. "Someone's following me. They know my family. I think this is bigger than Orion." Emma listened, her breath catching. "Then we go public. Now. We expose whatever this is before. They isolate us." But Sean hesitated. "If we go public now, they'll spin it. Say I'm paranoid. Say I'm unraveling." Emma didn't answer immediately. She knew he was right. Without proof, the narrative would be turned against them. "Then we find proof," she said, "and we do it quietly, but together." Unbeknownst. To them, Mason Drake had anticipated that. He watched their text exchanges in real time, accessed through compromised contacts at a telecom partner. "They're hunting ghosts," he said to his assistant. "Perfect. Let them waste energy while we isolate the structure. Destroy the movement, not the messengers." The next morning, Aurora Foundation's funding portal was hit with a maintenance error. Their donation links were down. Their email servers rerouted. Volunteers began reporting strange calls asking about Emma's political affiliations. "It's a slow cut," Emma said to Tasha. "They're trying to bleed us without making it visible." Tasha clenched her jaw. "Then we show them where we bleed from." Sean met with an old friend, Cal, a cybersecurity analyst turned whistleblower. They sat in a basement server room at a co-working space, lit only by monitors. "Can you trace the pressure?" Sean asked. Cal nodded. "Give me 48 hours, but if this is who I think it is, you'll need more than a firewall. You'll need air cover. Meanwhile, Emma contacted a journalist who'd once uncovered corporate espionage in pharmaceuticals, a woman named Nora Lynn. They met in an old diner downtown. Emma slid over the folder. Server logs, donation freezes, volunteer testimonies. "You want to go after them?" Nora asked. "Not after," Emma replied. "We want to hold the mirror and watch them flinch." At Orion, Leslie Vance walked into Drake's private floor without being summoned. She was visibly shaken. "You're escalating this into something we can't control." Drake didn't look at her. "Control is an illusion. Power is structure." She took a breath. "If this implodes, it lands on my name, not yours." Drake turned. "That's what your paycheck is for." That night, Emma found a handwritten note slipped under her office door. No return name. Just 4 words. "He owns the network." She read it 3 times, and suddenly she understood. The enemy wasn't a man. It was a machine, and they were already inside it. Cal's fingers danced across his keyboard like a concert pianist playing a symphony of intrusion. Lines of code blinked on multiple screens as Sean watched silently from behind. "You're being followed digitally, physically, and psychologically," Cal said, matter of fact. "This isn't surveillance. This is systemic dismantling." Sean leaned in. "Who's behind it?" Cal didn't answer immediately. Instead, he turned a screen toward Sean. "Recognize this signature?" On it, a server trail linked back to a telecom infrastructure company partially owned by an anonymous holding firm. "It leads to a shell inside a shell," Cal said. "But here's where it gets interesting. That firm made a massive investment in Orion." Sean felt cold all over. At the same time, Emma met again with Nora Lynn. "We need to publish, not in pieces, all of it," she said. Nora frowned. "Your story's compelling, but without naming the real owner, it's speculation." Emma slid over a USB. "This is their digital footprint. Connect it to the investment trail. Prove what they're hiding." Nora nodded. "This is going to get dangerous." Back at the Foundation, strange things started happening. Deliveries never ordered. An inspection. Visit from the city. A random audit notification from the IRS. Tasha called Emma in a panic. "They're choking us, one fake regulation at a time." Emma steadied her voice. "Then we document everything. If they bury us, they'll trip over our receipts." Cal worked non-stop. By the second night, he cracked the network. "Here," he said. "Your guy, Mason Drake, former military contractor, built surveillance platforms during the early War on Terror days. He bought Orion as a containment mechanism. Keep the public distracted with flashy banking while owning the real wires underneath." Emma and Sean sat across from each other, stunned. "He doesn't want to ruin us," Sean said. "He wants to erase what we represent." Emma nodded. "And if we disappear quietly, the next generation will never even know they were supposed to fight." That night, they made a pact. Full exposure, no censorship, no fear. They contacted Nora. Together, they planned a digital event. The Glass. Ledger. A live-streamed dossier of everything uncovered. Not just the corruption, but the architecture of it. "Once it's out there," Emma said, "they can't silence us without proving us right." Sean looked at the screen. "They'll try anyway." As the day approached, small acts of sabotage intensified. Aurora's front window was shattered one night. The server room was broken into, but nothing was stolen. Only wires moved, reconfigured, made subtly wrong. "It's psychological," Cal said. "They want you exhausted before you even hit broadcast." Emma replied quietly. "They'll be disappointed." Then came the real blow. 2 days before the live stream, Emma's home was broken into. Her personal journals, files, childhood photographs, all burned in a trash can outside. The police called it random. She knew better. Sean found her sitting on the back steps that night wrapped in a blanket, silent. "They think they've weakened you," he said, "but they don't know what they've ignited." The next morning, Emma stood in front of the camera for a teaser video. "This Thursday, we go live, not to destroy, but to reveal, for every person who was told they weren't worth banking with, for every community labeled too risky, for every story stolen. We're not here to fight the system. We're here to replace it with truth." The teaser went viral in under 12 hours. People began calling it "the day the vault opens." Former employees of Orion reached out anonymously. Donors pledged to defend Aurora publicly. And somewhere, in a luxury condo above the city, Mason Drake watched with his jaw clenched. "They're going nuclear," his assistant said. Drake replied, "So will we." That evening, Cal burst into Emma's office. "We've been hit. They just took down Aurora's servers. They wiped everything." Emma didn't blink. Not everything. She opened a drawer, revealing a slim silver hard drive. "We knew they'd try, so we made copies. Now we make history." Thursday, 7:56 p.m. The Aurora Center was transformed into a live broadcast studio. Microphones tested, cables triple-checked, backup generators humming. At the front stood Emma, calm in a black blouse, no makeup, hair tied back. Sean stood beside her, jaw tight, eyes alert. "No edits," Emma said. "No filters, just truth." The countdown began. At 8 p.m. sharp, the live stream began. Emma faced the camera. "Welcome to the Glass Ledger. Tonight we are not asking for your belief. We are showing you what we found. Let the facts speak. And if you see yourself in our story, then maybe you've always known something was broken." She nodded to Sean. The files began to roll. One by one, digital exhibits appeared on screen. Orion's internal communications, investment chains linking back to Mason Drake's shell companies, server logs, surveillance trails, attempts to destabilize nonprofit infrastructure. On screen, the entire architecture of financial control unfolded. And the audience, now over 400,000 live viewers, watched in stunned silence. Then came the testimonials. Cal, Tasha, Jamal, Nora, former Orion employees whose faces were blurred, voices modulated, but whose stories confirmed every line of data. "I was told to profile by zip code. We targeted closures in low income, areas under strategic reduction. They bought silence, and when they couldn't, they destroyed reputations." Halfway through, Emma paused. "You may ask why we risked this, why we pushed back. The answer is simple. Because silence is a luxury only the powerful can afford. And we've never had that luxury." She glanced at Sean, who stepped forward. "They used my face in a lie. So now I'm using it to tell the truth." Back in Orion's war room, Leslie watched the live stream unfold with white knuckles. "They have everything," she said. Richard Monroe sank into his chair. "We underestimated her." Mason Drake stood in the back, silent. His phone buzzed. The Department of Justice. The message was short. "We need to talk." He said nothing, just stared at the screen. In the final segment, Emma did what few leaders ever dare. She laid herself bare. Her arrest record, her mistakes, her regrets. "I have broken rules, but never hearts, never trust, and never hope. They fear me not because of what I've done, but because of what I've survived." The comment feed exploded. "Lead us. She's the real deal. This is the revolution." By the end, the viewer count passed 1 million. Servers groaned under the weight, but the message got through. They ended with a call to action, not just to believe, but to build. New financial cooperatives, new tech, new networks. Don't Wait for them to make space for you, Emma said. We're not knocking anymore. We're constructing. As the cameras powered down, Emma turned to Sean. His eyes were wet. I think we just changed everything, he whispered. She nodded. Now comes the hard part. Tasha burst into the room. We've got offers from universities, legal, firms, donors, ex-employees. Everyone wants in. They're calling it the beginning of the Postbank era. But outside, in the dark, someone else was watching. A man in a charcoal coat holding an old flip phone. He made a call. They pulled it off, fully exposed. A long silence. Then, no, we don't touch them now. The public shield is too strong. We wait. We adapt. The phone snapped shut. The war wasn't over. It had just changed shape. That night, as rain fell softly against Emma's window, she sat alone. A knock came. It was Sean. He held a flash drive. Cal recovered something else. The original surveillance logs. You're going to want to see this. Emma plugged it in. Her face paled. This wasn't just about us. Sean nodded, grimly. No, it never was. Because what they had uncovered wasn't the end of a story. It was the door to something far deeper, far darker, and far from over. The morning after the Glass Ledger felt surreal. Headlines flooded every outlet. Orion exposed, underground network behind modern surveillance, the face of financial rebellion, Emma Carter. Yet, inside the Aurora Center, it was strangely quiet. Coffee brewed, volunteers whispered, and Emma stood by the window, watching the world absorb a truth it didn't ask for, but needed. Sean entered, holding 2 phones. This one's press, this one's legal. Emma took them both, handed them back. No more reacting. Let's pause. Listen to the echo. He nodded, placing the phones down. Then he handed her something smaller. A letter. Handwritten. No signature. Just 6 words. They will never stop watching you. Emma read it twice, then folded it. It's not paranoia if it's protocol, she said. Cal entered moments later, eyes tired. Our site got over 5 million hits in 12 hours. I'm cloning backups globally. It's too viral to kill now, but I don't like what I'm seeing. Emma turned. What do you mean? He pulled out his tablet. Publicly, we won. But quietly, new patterns are forming. Orion is restructuring, divesting, renaming, and Mason Drake, he just moved his assets offshore. They're not retreating. They're reloading. Emma's eyes narrowed. So it's whack-a-mole. Cal nodded. With better camouflage and new investors. Tasha joined them, holding her phone. There's more. She tapped the screen. An influencer. Paid. Clearly, had started spinning the narrative. This isn't a rebellion, it's political propaganda. Be careful who you trust. The comments were a war zone. Emma sighed. They're flooding the field with noise, confuse the crowd, blur the enemy. Sean added, they can't erase us, so they'll dilute us. Later that day, Emma sat with Nora Lynn. We're starting phase 2, she said. If they've gone underground, we shine a light there too. Nora agreed. But we have to move smarter. They're evolving. We can't just react with passion. Anymore. We need infrastructure. Emma nodded. Then let's build it. One node at a time. They launched Project Ledger, Phase 2, a decentralized alliance of whistleblowers, ethical coders, grassroots reporters, and community educators. Not a company, not a nonprofit. A movement with muscle. No central bank. No single face. If you took one down, 5 more would rise. Drake might control wires, but now they were building their own circuit. Meanwhile, Sean faced his own quiet war. Orion's legal team began targeting his certifications, claiming breach of NDA, violation of post-employment clauses. "They're trying to revoke my license," he told Emma. "If I lose it, I can't legally advise anymore." Emma said nothing for a moment. Then we'll make sure you never need it again." The media attention began to shift. Other institutions were being questioned. Investigations launched. New voices stepping forward. Teachers, veterans, nurses, all telling versions of the same story: blocked access, systemic bias, algorithmic rejection. Emma's voice had opened a crack. Now the people were flooding in. But victory came at a cost. Emma couldn't walk the street without being stopped. Her emails multiplied by the hundreds every day. Threats still trickled in, disguised as concerns, often anonymous. One morning, her car tires were slashed. Another, her office was tagged with red paint. "Go back to where you belong." She didn't flinch. She documented everything, posted it, exposed it. "If you try to silence me," she tweeted, "I'll make your attempt public. You don't scare me. You remind me why I fight." That post alone reached 9.4 million people. The more they pushed, the stronger she got. But in the background, something darker stirred. Mason Drake reappeared. Not in press, not in law, but in backroom deals and private influence chains. He met with foreign investors, former intelligence partners, tech lobbyists. "The myth is spreading," he said. "We underestimated the human side. Now we fight shadows with shadows." His next plan wouldn't target institutions. It would target trust itself. Late one night, Sean found Emma at the center, alone, reviewing security footage. He sat beside her. "You ever wish you'd walked out that first day and never looked back?" Emma stared at the screen. "Every day." Then she smiled. "And every day I'm glad I didn't." Sean nodded. "Me too." Outside, the streetlights flickered once, then twice, then came back stronger than before. 1 week after Project Ledger's expansion, something strange began happening. Voices began disappearing, quietly, one by one. Small blogs that covered the Glass Ledger story vanished overnight. Email newsletters stopped sending. Verified accounts went dark. At first, no one noticed, but Emma did, because silence, to her, was always louder than noise. Cal confirmed the worst. Someone is deploying a digital sterilization program. It's wiping traces of the movement without triggering major platforms' alarms. Sean frowned. "Is that even possible?" Cal nodded. "Only with access to root-level server permissions. This isn't a hacker. This is someone with authority." Emma whispered, "Drake." Sean paced. "We go public again. Emergency stream. Call it The Vanishing." Emma held up a hand. "Not yet. We don't amplify shadows until we understand their shape." She turned to Cal. "Track the deletions, map the pattern, and isolate where the signal breaks." Cal nodded. "Already. On it." Meanwhile, Tasha received a call that made her blood freeze. Her landlord had been bought out by a new holding company. Eviction notice, 30 days. "They're targeting us at the roots," she told Emma. "Not just online, in real life. Physical erasure." Emma's voice was calm, but her hands trembled. "Then we fight with presence, not platforms." They launched Ground Zero Days, pop-up events in local communities. Live, unplugged, printed flyers. Human stories, no screens, no hashtags, just people, connection. Truth passed hand to hand, in parks, churches, barbershops, playgrounds. It spread like fire, but one you could feel. Drake's digital scalpel was useless against analog fire. But then came the breach. Cal burst into the center at 2 a.m., wild-eyed. "They got through our firewall. Into your system, Emma." She opened her laptop. Files were missing. Personal files, notes, conversations, voice recordings. "They're building a case," Cal said, "out of fragments. They'll edit your life into a crime." Emma stood, lips pressed into a line. Then we stay ahead. Again. But for the first time, her voice shook. Sean stepped forward. You don't have to carry this alone anymore. She looked at him. I know, but I built this by carrying it. Every block, every bruise. He nodded. Then let's carry it together. They drafted a new message. Let them come. Will Teum still be here. A manifesto of resistance. It wasn't about fighting data anymore. It was about enduring beyond deletion. Emma read it aloud during a community rally. They can break our servers, but not our stories. They can shut down networks, but not us. As the speech ended, a young girl stepped forward, no older than 12. She handed Emma a handwritten note. I want to be like you. Emma unfolded it. It read, Because of you, I know I matter. Emma knelt, tears slipping silently. You already are like me, she whispered, just braver. Back in the shadows, Drake watched, but something in his expression had changed. He wasn't angry anymore. He was curious, studying. We can't destroy her, he muttered, so let's study her, understand why she endures. Maybe that's the real threat, not her movement, but her mind. His assistant asked, And then what? Drake replied, Then we make a choice. Emma, unaware, stood on the rooftop of the center that night, looking out over the city, alive with movement, with chaos, with hope. Sean joined her. We've hit the wall, he said. What comes next won't be fair. She nodded. It never was. But now, we're not playing to win. We're playing to stay standing. A gust of wind swept through them, and for a moment the city lights below blinked, as if something or someone had taken notice. 1 month later, the world had not ended. Aurora still stood, Sean still taught, Emma still led, but everything was different. They weren't viral anymore. The headlines had faded. Attention drifted to newer scandals, flashier crises. But in the quiet, the movement grew. Not loud like before, but deep. Rooted. Emma sat with a small group in a church basement on the south side of the city. 20 chairs, no cameras, just people. She passed around notebooks. This is where it starts now, not with code, not with cash, but with conversation. A woman asked, But is it still safe to speak? Emma smiled. It never was, and we're still here. Outside, Sean reviewed local bank policies with a group of students. Not to shame institutions, but to teach navigation. They built the walls, he said. We'll teach you where the ladders are. One student raised his hand. Why didn't they stop you? Sean's answer was simple. Because they thought the crowd would forget, and the crowd became a community. Back at Orion, Mason, Drake stood before an empty boardroom looking out at a city that had resisted him. He wasn't defeated, just altered. His models had changed. Control was no longer absolute. People had learned to see the strings. She didn't destroy us, he said quietly. She rewired the narrative. And for the first time, he felt obsolete. Leslie Vance had already resigned. Richard Monroe had vanished from the media, and Orion rebranded into Stratus. New logo, new language, same engine. But the public wasn't blind anymore. Terms like shadow equity and algorithmic exclusion had entered common vocabulary. Emma's words were now curriculum at universities. Her story archived in documentaries. Tasha opened a satellite center 2 states away. Cal launched a nonprofit cybersecurity toolkit for activists. Nora Lynn published a book, Glass Walls: How We Learn to See. Sean started. mentoring young professionals who felt invisible. And Emma? She wrote something too. Not a book, not a speech, a letter. To the ones who stay, it began. You will not be celebrated in headlines. You will not trend. You may never feel seen. But your presence is what saves the rest of us. You are the anchor, the quiet force, the echo that never dies. Thank you for not leaving, for not breaking, for staying. She sent copies of the letter to every volunteer who had stayed through the hardest weeks, and then she burned the original, not out of fear, but to let it live only in those who truly needed it. Because not everything should be digitized. Some things should be held. That evening, Emma returned to the rooftop of the center. Sean stood beside her. They didn't speak. They didn't need to. Below them, a mural had been painted by the youth. Emma, arms crossed, eyes forward. Around her were words in every language. We belong. We remember. We build. And just beneath it, in black paint, they couldn't delete us. The wind picked up. Emma closed her eyes. Not because it was over, but because it had begun. If you've made it this far, let us know what you thought about the story. And if you're not subscribed yet, don't forget to subscribe to catch all our upcoming stories.